enter the realm of KSBM radio's creation. Student-led from inception to narration. Crafting content from dawn until dusk. All students involved in the work and the fuss. In the heart of Townview where voices reside. Student-led discussions where ideas collide. From interviews with leaders, peers, and businesses. Just watch us work, creating innovative content. Every aspect managed with student finesse. From podcast production to social media press. No task too daunting, no challenge too grand. KSBM Radio, we taking a stand. KSBM Radio, students leading the way. Every task idea, we seize the day. Witness now as all of our efforts break through. KSBM Radio, the voice of Townview.
I'm closer to the music.
Broadcasting live from Marvin E. Robinson School of Business and Management, Dallas, Texas.
My radio station.
We are KSBM Radio, the voice of Townview.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to KSBM Radio, the voice of Townview. I am Mason, joined by my co-hosts,
Jay, Rocket,
Scarlett.
And today we're continuing our SBM 50 and TMC 30 alumni series. We are highlighting the journeys of Townview graduates who began their stories right here in these halls and went on to make an impact across many industries. Our guest today is Miss Dina De La Rocha Harvey, a proud graduate of the School of Business and Management and Townview Business and Management Center. She is a member of the class of 1997. After graduating from Townview, she continued her education, entered Dallas Radio at 97.1 FM, built a major career within Disney, and now works in digital media and talent with Triller. Her journey shows many directions a Townview education can take you. So, Miss Dina De La Rocha, welcome back. We're excited to have you. How are you today, and is there anything you would like to share with us before you begin?
I'm good. I mean, I've lived a lot of lives, so I'll probably talk a lot. So I told them in the beginning, like, if you want to stop and interrupt me, they're not being rude. I just tell them I will just ramble. So at any point, you can cut me off if you need to for time.
Okay, great. So my first question, what originally led you to choose the Business Management Center, and what drew you to Townview when you were making that decision?
So I don't think it's the answer people want to hear, but basically I just checked the box, if that makes sense. I went to Griner. That was the middle school I went to, and I went for orchestra because I loved orchestra at fourth grade. I started playing the violin, and so I went there, and then after that, I wanted to play the violin, and I wanted to do that as a career. Well, that's not kind of what your family wants, or my family wanted. They were like, you need something more stable, and so I went to my counselor, and I was like, okay, I want to either go to Arts Magnet or, I'm hitting the table, sorry. I move my hands a lot. Either I was going to go to the Arts Magnet or, I decided on the School of Business because I was like, well, maybe I'll just go there because that's what, it's safer. And so I ended up going to the School of Business because that was something that my parents were really wanting me to do. So that's where I ended up going.
You were also part of the group that moved from the original Business Management Center into like the new Townview campus. So my question is, how did that transition just shape your experience as a student, both academically and personally?
It was a lot different back then. I think the difference was in downtown, and that when we were all kind of in our own individual schools, at that time there was a lot of gang stuff happening. So I remember being scared to go to school. That was when, they started doing the metal detectors, they started doing all that stuff. And so even though I did stuff, I usually just went to school, did what I had to do, and would go home. My parents didn't let me do anything. I just kind of had to, I didn't go to friends' houses. I just kind of went to classes, did my school thing, hung out with friends at school, and then went home. And then when we went to Townview, the biggest thing was that there were so many people from so many different places. It was a lot safer, and it was a lot, you got to meet with a lot of different people, a lot of different, they had a lot of different electives that they didn't have. And plus it was, the way that they had us, even though business was always a professional school and being professional as kids, around that time, the culture was a lot different. So Townview made you button up more and feel more like, oh, wow, we're really now a professional school. Mm-hmm. We're really now being, going for what we're here to do. Right. And so I think that changed a lot of the culture for that class from, for 97, 96, and the ones before that. They all wanted to, and when they came, here, we realized that, oh, now we're kind of being adults more, and we have to now be more professional. Yeah.
Were there teachers, mentors, or classmates who made a lasting impact on you during your time here?
Yeah, I had two teachers. One was Ms. Broadnax when I was at the downtown school, and then here it was Miss Sandy Hall-Childs, and she was the journalism teacher. And I think at the time when we were choosing electives, I was really interested in like yearbook and newspaper and things like that, and I was lucky to be a part of both of those. She was the one that kind of helped me get more into that, and also join a journalism workshop, which actually helped shape a lot of what I was doing. And one of my big mentors was from that time, and it was Cheryl Smith, who helped me learn about, being a part of, of being able to speak to adults, being able to stand up and introduce your name and introduce yourself to people and be confident. And I think from doing that program and from Miss Hall-Childs, having us learn about all these different things outside of school, that's what helped me kind of shape why I'm so confident in what I do now.
And what are your favorite memories from your years at Townview?
Really, that I think I learned to become a leader then. I didn't realize it at the time, but I remember because it was the first time, it was a new school. I think other people have talked about there wasn't any sports, there wasn't any, it was all different. So for us to come into this new space, I remember I was the one that led the beginning doing, for Hispanic Heritage Month, I did a program and I was like leading that and getting everyone to come together, and we put a show together that the whole school watched. Cinco de Mayo did the same thing. I led that and had people do, where we had dancing, we had, I kind of organized it together because I felt like we needed some of those things that, because it was the first time. So I think it was exciting at that time because we were the first ones to create a yearbook. We were the first ones to do newspaper. We were the first ones to kind of make this school into a traditional high school. Before it was kind of like we didn't have all those things that you all have now. So.
Thank you for your insight. So after you graduated, what kind of guided your decision-making on where to attend college?
So at the time, I still stuck with my mind like I have to do business, and I was doing accounting. That was my focus here. So when I was doing accounting, I ended up, thinking like, what's a good school? And Northwood University was the university that I was kind of leaning towards. And I had gotten a scholarship, a full ride for that school. And so I ended up going there and doing college over there.
So how do you think your college experience prepared you for the opportunities that came your way afterward?
Okay, I'm just gonna be honest. It did it. I ended up going to college, and it wasn't. I decided then, which is why I shifted into entertainment. It wasn't what I really enjoyed doing. I think the moment that it changed for me was I was taking my little brother to soccer practice, and I was sitting in the car waiting for him, and I was listening to the radio, and there was two DJs, and they were called Keith and, they were called Kramer and Twitch. I was still on their real names, but Kramer and Twitch were on the radio on Mix 102.9, and I remember listening going, how cool is it to talk to your best friend about music all day? And to and so I remembered at that time, I was like, you know what, I'm going to try to intern there while I'm in college and hopefully be able to get an internship. And luckily I was able to intern over there and grow my career there.
When you think back to the time right after high school, what goals or dreams were you holding on to?
Then I think the thing I was looking for at the time was just being happy. I think I didn't realize that when you turn 18, 19 and having to figure out your life, I think it's hard to kind of decide your path and what you want to do because you're just confused. You're wanting to make your family happy. You want to make yourself happy. You want to make sure you're doing the right decisions. So I think that when you're young, you don't realize any of that. You just think about I really like this, but I don't want to disappoint this. And I think having to make decisions for your life when you're an adult and doing, something that's safe for you, what's best for you, and also knowing what you're capable of doing, I think that's what I kind of learned from doing all of that.
How did your journey into radio begin, and what helped you get your start at 97.1 FM?
So I told you kind of how I got in, but after that, as an intern, I was only supposed to be there from August. It was 98. I was in August to December, and then that internship was kind of when I first started, I wanted to learn as much as I can out of it. So what I did was, I think when I first started, I made like little business cards. I put them in everyone's mailboxes. And I was like, if you need help with anything, just let me know. And I remembered that people actually took the time to reach out to me to ask me whether to file stuff or go to sales or go to whatever. And from there, because I learned so many different skills, I was helping so many different departments. So when it came time to my internship being over, I had, helped organize the entire promotions department, had set up their databases because I learned from business, all those programs and stuff. They weren't organized, so I fixed all that for them. I mean, I did so many things. So when they were hiring people, they actually created a role for me because I had organized everything for them. So in January, the only thing was when that point happened, they were like, we want to hire you. The only thing is you have to choose whether or not, we're not telling you about whether or not you have to go to school or not, but we're just saying that we need you between these hours, 9 to 5. Like you can't be, coming in at night or anything like that. So I had to make a choice at that time to decide if I was going to continue with school or I was going to do this, and I decided to just continue to do the radio thing.
So you mentioned the data and the organizing, but what other specific skills from radio did you learn as you moved on to other roles and careers?
So I started doing that, but of course I was always interested in on air because I saw that and I heard, and it was so much fun. But I remembered that because I was doing so much, I had one of my mentors, Race Taylor, saw me one weekend because I was always out there working and learning. And I remember he asked me like, hey, we have a new computer system and we want to know if you're able to come in and learn it because we're wanting to train people on it. And I said, sure. So I ended up learning how to do it and basically letting a computer play the music and stuff and just watching it. And so after I learned how to use that, I ended up training the entire DJs and staff and everyone how to do it. I ended up training other radio stations like The Edge and all these other stations at the time because no one knew how to use it. And then from then on, I started learning how to do production and audio, and I started doing that. And then as I was guided through all these things, I started taking opportunities where I just wasn't afraid to say, like, let me try that, let me do that. One time, the DJs, pretty much which I ended up being friends with, ended up not showing up for work. And I called their boss and I said, hey, can I cover for them? And he was surprised they even asked. He goes, well, yeah, if you tape it. And so I taped it. And after that, they gave me my own shift on the weekend, and I started developing my own shows. And so I kind of just created my own path in a way because I just kept wanting to learn and try new things. And then I ended up becoming the imaging director, which what that is like, in the beginning of the show, it has a thing saying, welcome to blah, blah, blah show. Mm-hmm. I was the one that created those pieces, and I was the one that wrote those things and voiced some of the things. So that's kind of how my voice stuff started and all of that. So I kind of got into myself, and I ended up, when I was 21, the youngest imaging director in the top 10 market and the only female at the time, which was pretty cool.
So you were taking opportunity after opportunity, which was great. So what inspired you to take the opportunity to work with Disney?
So that was interesting because I remember getting a call for someone that worked with me at the Eagle, and they were like, hey, there's this role at Disney, and, they were telling me about it, and I was like, oh, well, there's this person I thought of, and they're like, no, we're calling you for this thing. I was like, oh, okay, well, I don't know. I've been working at the Eagle, which was a rock station, and I had done all these different things, but I was like, can I do kid stuff, kid radio? Because it's a whole different thing, Mm-hmm. And so he was like, yeah, you can do this, So they interviewed me, and Disney is such a hard company to start getting into because you have to be a certain type of person. They interview people more than once, like a few times, to get to know if you're the right person for that company because you're going to be around kids. You're going to be around, and you also have to protect the company's property. You can't just talk about anything or anybody that comes in or any stories. You have to, you have to protect all that stuff. So I ended up getting interviewed, and I was literally one of the fastest hires, they said, because as soon as I went in for the interview, it was like a Wednesday, and I went through 3 interviews, and the last person, this lady named Robin Jones, who was amazing, and, I'm thankful to her to this day. Like, she liked me so much that she pushed to get my background check done, and I was hired in that Monday. So wow. June 12th of 2006, I started at Disney.
You spent several years doing content and doing voice work for Disney. What moments or projects stand out especially meaningful to you?
The first one that I started working with talent when I was in California, I think stood out the most, and that was with Allie Simpson, because I remember at the time they needed someone to help guide her and direct her show. And Allie Simpson was from Australia. She was a sister of Cody Simpson, who was an artist at the time. And so I was like, in Dallas, before I moved to California, I trained and taught, kids how to talk, how to present themselves, how to be confident on the mic and things like that. And so I helped her kind of find her voice. And now she's doing her own podcast, which she's doing great. And the other projects that I think, from then on, because of her, it led to working with social media kids. So that I started bringing in social media talent for the first time. So Vine was a big thing. So I brought in like Brent Rivera, Jack and Jack, and all these huge people who are like 15, 16 at the time, and got to know them and their parents and worked with them for their entire careers. And they're great people to work with. And then also Jenna Ortega, I was her producer for 2 years. So I worked with her on her show, and she was great to work with. I worked with Zendaya, Sabrina Carter. I worked with all of them as far as like directing them and doing kind of this. And so, it was, I worked with a lot of different people that you all know now, but I knew them when they were like really young.
What is one challenge from your professional career that taught you an important lesson?
I think for me, the biggest challenge I had was to continue to just kind of believe in myself, because, it's hard when you're in a business, especially entertainment, and especially when you go in without having a degree. It's a lot harder. It's a lot harder to have to go into something like that. People are saying like, oh, well, I'd rather be in social media and not go to college and not do this and that. It's like, I think if, looking back on everything, I wouldn't change anything I did, but you have to have a really tough skin to be in any kind of entertainment business, in any social media. You have to be ready to hear no's. And I wasn't afraid to hear no. I wasn't afraid to, step up and ask to try to do something. I wasn't afraid to learn. So I think that the challenges I had were mostly internal, just kind of thinking like, sometimes I just felt like I wasn't good enough, I wasn't, but I had to push through them like, no, you've done this before, push through it. No, you've done this before, push through it. Sometimes people even told me things and said like, no one's going to hire a Hispanic girl to do that kind of stuff. And I had to like not think about that and be like, no, I want to do it, so I'm going to do it. So I think that having to push through those times and having to be confident in myself was a thing I had to keep pushing, because, as much as, it seems like, when you talk about your life and talk about stuff, you still have those moments that you think that you're just not good enough. What do they call it now? They call it like, it's a certain word they call it now, where you feel like you're not, like you have all these recognitions and people say you're great, but you don't feel it,
Oh, imposter syndrome?
Imposter syndrome, yeah, exactly. So I feel that sometimes, even to this day, I still feel that, so.
Well, looking back at everything you've accomplished, what achievements continue to motivate and inspire you to this day?
Helping people. I think that's the one thing I love, is helping people, helping artists, helping talent, helping anyone. I think that, the one thing that I've really noticed a lot of changes with the culture of social media and things like that is that people look at following and numbers, and it's not about that. Like, I've helped people with 0 followers. I've helped people with, 1 million or 100 million cross-platform. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I think I've realized that, if you see someone and they're working hard and they're talented, they're going to be successful regardless whether you are in there helping them or not. They're going to push through, and if you're able to help them and get to where they need to be, or you connect them to somebody and it helps them even go even farther, then that is something that, it drives me to see, like, whether I help a band get signed and get on a label, whether I help an artist be able to perform and, be live, whether I help someone who didn't know about social media and end up, doing it, whether I help someone that does social media and have to do something mainstream and talk on a mic and never done hosting before. Like, seeing them grow and learn, I think helping people is a big thing that I enjoy. And if I'm not helping anyone, if I'm not passionate about what I'm doing, then it's time for me to move on.
You work in digital media and talent with Triller. So how would you describe your current role at Triller in a way that students can easily understand who may not use the platform?
Yeah, well, the platform now is evolving and changing, and I'm actually in the process of moving out of that role. But at the time when I was working there, I think I became the director of their talent department of community and talent growth. And that was basically for me to scout talent for the app. And the app was kind of like TikTok, but it was mostly for dancers and for people with music that wanted to sync up their videos to music. And that was one of the first platforms that kind of used AI to do that. So Triller was a big AI company. They like to use, a lot of different tools and stuff. And from there, they had a lot of different things that I learned. I learned how to build campaigns, and I learned how to work with brands and help, creators work with these brands. I learned how to, be able to do a lot of things that I had not done before. And that's helped me, move on to like other things that I've done. And, I think that always learning and growing in a role is something that I would advise anyone to like, not to ever say that I can't do something or I don't want to try to do it. It's like always, always try it and always figure out how to do it or ask someone to like guide you. If I didn't have mentors my entire life and people that helped me and people that taught me how to do things, I don't think I would be here.
What is something about your current job that makes you excited to come in each day?
Well, the new role that I'm working on right now that I'll be starting next year, the exciting part about that is I'll be working with new talent and helping them become successful in social media. I think doing that and guiding people to know how to do it, in a safe way, and how to also do it to get more eyes on them and also to get brands and people to be excited to work with them and to make money on social media. I think that's exciting. Also, developing all these new ideas that we're going to be doing with this new role. I think that's every day I get more excited because I'll be helping new people and helping, this new company kind of, relaunch. And so I think that's my next thing that I'm pretty excited about.
So you've been mentioning stepping into this new role. If you're able to share anything about that opportunity, what would you like us to know?
So I got a call out of the blue, and it was from this guy who texted me and said that someone I knew, my friend Cameron Dallas, who was a creator that was a part of MadCon. MadCon was it's called Meet and Greet Con, but basically it was a convention where these 9 or 10 boys, including Shawn Mendes, Cameron Dallas, and a few of them would go on tour and like meet their fans and stuff. And so he reached out to me saying that the owner Bart, I don't want to say his name wrong, Bartolian, I'm sorry, but he reached out to me and said that can we have a talk? And I said sure. And talking to him, he wants to relaunch MadCon and do this again, and that Cam said to reach out to me. And so I trust Cam, and I worked with Cameron, before at Disney. So I met with him, and I went to Shreveport and kind of had a meeting with him about it, and we decided that what we were going to do in the next year, which is bring this back. And if you're not familiar with it, they had a documentary called Chasing Cameron on Netflix and things like that. So my next project is going to be creating this relaunch of this, which is going to be a lot different. We're going to learn from the mistakes that happened in the past and make it evolve it to a lot better to help people become, in social media, be able to meet their fans, and also help people grow into these huge megastars like Cameron was, or Brent Rivera, or any of them that were a part of that before.
That sounds really interesting and fun. So in the future, how do you see new technology and creative tools changing the way people create content?
It's always changing. I mean, ever since I started with social media, early days, I had Friendster, I had MySpace, I had all those things. And anytime a new app would come out, I would just download it. So, Vine, it was then Musical.ly, then TikTok. I met all the people that were in those and worked with them and learned, and then all these talent that were just starting in them. So I always learned that anytime a new app comes out or anytime I see something new, so with AI, it's like, I had to learn it. And luckily I have my husband who showed me a lot of that stuff. And he, showed me just all the things that were growing from that. And so I think that always learning about what's happening, especially if you're interested in social media and what's happening and the future of it, I think learning about and reading up on any of the new technology coming out, always try it and learn it and kind of know, so that way you can be a part of those conversations, because it's always evolving. And if you're walking into those rooms about social media and you don't understand how to do it, you're going to be falling way behind. So always just learning and keeping up to date with that.
Yeah, I agree. And what shifts do you expect to see in the entertainment and digital media industry in the next several years?
Honestly, it's happening now, but you see a lot of TikTok live selling. Selling is a lot online. I see a lot of VTubers. I'm creating my own VTuber, and my husband is soon. When we're launching that next year, I think that's another thing. What VTuber is basically you have an avatar that you're kind of portraying as yourself, and then you can just kind of play in that space. So you can just be in your pajamas and nobody will see it because they're just going to see this avatar. I think things like that are going to be more of the future of what social media will be. And then I think also, the way it's shifting the culture with cancel culture and things like that, I think people are going to be more careful about what they say and what they do. And also trolling and things like that, I hope will be less because a lot of people are now fighting back against that. So I'm hoping that gets better, and I think also safe for kids to be able to, I know that Australia just stopped having children being on social media until they were a certain age, and I think that's great because I think that sometimes when you're at that age, you're not ready to be a part of what's going on in that world, and I think it's better to just, to have parents and have people realize that it is a dangerous place. You can't just give a kid an iPad and think that that's going to be okay because there's so many ways that bad things could happen to your kids, not just, security-wise, but just mentally. And I think my mental health of everyone, I think it's important to have, a good mental health, to be able to just to survive anything, whether work or personal or anything.
As you look ahead, what professional or personal goals are you hoping to pursue?
I think, I think for me, I just want to continue to enjoy what I do. I want to continue to learn and grow what I'm doing, and I want to continue to help people. I think those are the goals that I have. And I remembered one time I met Ben Sherwood one time. I had a meeting with him, and he was the head of the ABC television group at the time. And I had a private meeting with him because I met him at some event and, ended up having a one-on-one with him, which is really unheard of at the Walt Disney Company. You don't just jump from someone in radio to like the person who's right under Bob Iger, So to meet with him, the last question he asked me was kind of similar to what you said. He said, "Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" And I told him without even thinking, I said, "You know what? I don't know how much money I'll be making and I don't know where I'll be. But as long as I'm happy and as long as I'm learning and as long as I enjoy what I'm doing, then that's where I see myself." And after that point, he was like, "I want to follow where you're going. I want to know your career." And he did. He mentored me and helped me throughout my career at Disney and would check out my projects and the videos and the content that I created and directed. And I mean, he was a big part of it. And also Phil Greeny, my VP at the time, was a huge part of my career then. Also Kelly Edwards, Ray De La Garza. Those were all VPs that helped me get into more opportunities. And actually, majority of my life, my careers were created for me because I had created those openings that were missing. And I think being invaluable, I didn't realize that was what I was doing, but I think that's what helped me continue to grow in what I'm doing and evolve. Because the majority of the times when I get jobs, it's because people just call me and say, "Hey, I have something for you." And that's really my entire career. I've been blessed and lucky that hard work and having good morals and good ethics and looking after, making sure that you take care of the person that you're working with and think about their, what their needs are, I think goes a long way rather than worried about what you're making or what you're getting out of it.
Awesome. So before we move on to our final question, we want to honor another member of your family who was also a part of the Townview legacy, your brother, Jose De La Rocha, who was a Law Magnet alum and served as class vice president, interned with Domingo Garcia, and supported local elections and dedicated himself to helping the youth. What parts of his journey or impact do you feel are most important for others to remember and carry?
My brother was a great, great guy. I mean, when he was here, he lit up the room. I remember he became vice president because his best friend wanted to be president, and he helped his best friend. That's the kind of person my brother was. And he helped anyone and everyone. And that went through his entire life. I mean, when he was a policeman, he literally served everybody. He served his family, he served his coworkers, his bosses, the city of Dallas. I remember hearing stories of him where there were criminals that he met and he would talk to them in the car to let them know that, it's going to be okay. Like, he was just a great person. And I think, for him, his whole legacy was just helping people. There's not one person that I met that said, "Jose didn't help me." Jose, everyone had a great thing about my brother. And, when it came to young people, he actually was a huge thing helping young people. He organized this like boxing group where he would actually drive the bus and take kids to different places. He would raise money to like bring these kids and make sure that they weren't getting in trouble. And he helped, a lot of people. He did a lot of volunteering. He did a lot of stuff. So I think the biggest thing I would say is that, for him, is that helping people out. And I think that's something that in our family we've learned. My parents were really good about teaching us to work hard, to be ethic, and also respect everybody. And I think to talk to everyone, because the one thing you don't realize is that, when you talk to everyone, you shouldn't talk to anyone, because there's things that that I don't know. There's things I could learn from you. There's things you can learn from me. And I think the same thing you should think about with your parents is like, they may tell you things, you may roll your eyes, but there's things they know that you don't know. And you should just sit and focus on what they're telling you and realize that, like, because if I had not thought about this stuff, a lot of my things are guided from my parents, from Jose and Dina De La Rocha. Those two are the reason why I am the way I am today, and why I'm a person that cares about other people, has empathy, and enjoys to help people. And I think that's what I am thankful for, is that I had a good family, from my brother to my other brother Eric and Linda. Like, we all are leaders in our own way, and we all have created our own paths, but we care a lot about people, and we like to help people.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for sharing that. I know it means a lot to us and everyone here at Townview learning from him.
And if we can close out with one final question. If you could go back and give your high school self one piece of advice, what do you think that would be?
I don't think I would tell her anything. I think I would just let her do what she did, because I don't think I would change anything that I did. I don't think I would change. I think all those things that I did, all the mistakes I learned, all the, good or bad people I dealt with in life, like, you learn from all those things. And I don't think I would be guided to where I'm at now if I had changed anything. So, yeah, just like they do in the movies, you wouldn't change anything that you did, or yeah, I would love my brother to be here, but I wouldn't change, all the stuff that, happened, because I don't think I would be here today or be the person I am today without all the experiences I had. So yeah, I would probably watch what she was doing, but I wouldn't jump in and anything. I would like to relive some of the stuff she did. That's probably what I would do.
Well, Ms. De La Rocha, thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. From your time at BMC and TMC to your work in radio, Disney, and digital media, your story shows how the foundation built here at Townview can lead to many meaningful and unexpected opportunities. We also appreciate you honoring your brother, Jose, and the legacy he left at Townview. To our listeners, thank you for joining us for another episode in our SBM 50 and TMC 30 alumni series. We look forward to sharing more stories from graduates who continue to inspire the next generation. This has been KSBM Radio, the voice of Townview.
Stay awesome.
Thank you for listening to KSBM Radio, the voice of Townview.
My radio station.
We hope you enjoyed the great content and great discussion, all from a student's perspective. Make sure to follow us on Twitter for the latest updates at KSBM_TVT or on Facebook at KSBM Radio.
Add them on Facebook.
Check them on Facebook.
Take care.